I remember having a meal with Sergei Obraztsov and either his pianist or his wife, at 1984, I think it might have been his wife, and with Henryk Yurkovsky, who was a great friend of Obraztsov. And I think it was the longest time that I had any kind of close conversation with him. Oh, the story of Obraztsov and politics is really very interesting, because he started off with the approval of the Komsomol, or whatever the hell the ruling class in Moscow were, and he used to play in the Kremlin. He had a wonderful cabaret act, one man and a piano, which his wife played, and it was witty and it was clever, and it was all done with hand puppets, with no scenery, and it was really, really good cabaret material. And the ruling people thought, this is wonderful, and we need a really good theatre for children, so why don't we do it with puppets? So they put Obraztsov in charge, not just of Moscow puppetry, but in charge of all the puppetry in all the satellite countries. So he became the top dog culturally. And he was, what he did was fairly amazing, but his work also had to be a kind of a template for what all the other puppet theatres did. And there was a puppet theatre in every major town in most of the satellite countries. He had a few shows which travelled all over the world, like the Unusual Concert. And the Don Juan, they all had political implications. They were all anti-American, basically. There was one called Jim and the Dollar, and but they were all anti the United States. Although the Extraordinary Concert and Don Juan went both to London and I think to New York. Certainly the Unusual Concert did. But that was a sort of satire of Western musical theatre characters. But anyway, it's interesting that his work, now, he is celebrated, but his style of puppetry is almost gone in Russia. They don't seem to me to emulate him or even estimate him as they once did, perhaps because it was forced on them and now they can do more or less what they like. For me, the greatest of them all was probably Joseph Krofter, who was the head of a company called Drac of Eastern Bohemia, which is, of course, a part of Czech Republic, and then was part of Czechoslovakia. And he had been a theatre director and went perforce to puppetry because he was a bit of a he was a protest theatre maker. He made, with puppets and actors, the most beautiful shows, but they were all under the surface protest shows. But he could get away with them with puppets where he couldn't get away with them with human beings. He did it with puppets and actors, and the dragon was a human actor in black leather, a sort of a Nazi figure. They couldn't, of course, say that it was also the uniform of the Russian authority. And it was the human beings who the dragon was trying to, had subjugated, were the puppets. And the metaphor was very good. I remember he used a spotlight, a huge spotlight, as a machine gun. It was very, very clever. Then later on, there were the handspring puppets. And they came to London with their Ubu and the Truth Commission, which is coming back now, and with a version of Wojciech on the high belt. Have I pronounced that right? And 2 or 3 other productions. And the artistic director of the Battersea Arts Centre saw Wojciech, and he had this book by Michael Morpurgo called Warhorse, and he decided that this was the puppet company that he wanted to interpret this book. The only problem being that they were in South Africa. So fortunately, the director of Battersea Arts Centre was moved to the National Theatre, where there was good subsidy, and he went out to South Africa and commissioned a horse, a puppet horse, which was then shipped to London.
Yes.
And, it's a long story, but it is the production which has made more success and more money and more fame than any other production, I think, of the National Theatre. There was quite an important book that the Puppet Centre published called Aspects of Puppet Theatre by Professor Yurkowski, the aforementioned. And this became almost required reading for every serious puppet group and puppet course. And bit by bit, there were universities starting theatre courses, including puppetry. But in London was the first degree course in puppetry. And that gave me a kind of second career, really, as a university lecturer. It was a big surprise, but wonderful. So I was at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. It wasn't Royal then, but it's Royal now. Central School of Speech and Drama. And I spent 14 very happy years there, introducing the master's students to the possibilities of puppetry within their productions. It was an interdisciplinary course. And they have had a big effect because they've gone out into the theatre world, many of them very successful.
Okay, who's this chappy chappy? What I? Isn't that cute? Who's this chappy chappy?
We've got a nice one of him.
Yeah, look.
Oh, that's lovely. I must have a copy of
Isn't
that.
that cute?
Can you send me one of
Yes,
those?
of course I can. And then there.
That's nice too.
Isn't that nice?
That's really nice.